Hi everyone, my name is Grayson Nutt, and today I'm going to be talking about what stress is and the effects it has on our body. So first, I want you to sit back, take a deep breath, but then think about a time where you maybe felt some overwhelming amount of stress. Whether it was preparing for a big test you had the next day, or even preparing for a presentation such as this one, most chances are that you felt some churning in your stomach, maybe a headache, sweating, and even nausea. Stress is something that we all deal with, and oftentimes there are awful symptoms that none of us want to have. Because of this, we all have experienced this, and it's important to know what's going on. But why should we really care what stress is and what it does to our body? Stress is a natural reaction, but it can have very negative effects depending on the amount of stress that we face and the prolonged exposure. As college students, we are typically faced with high amounts of stress, so it's very important that we understand what is going on when these stressful situations are faced, especially within our body. Because high amounts of stress can have extremely negative effects on our bodily functions. So I'm also a student and have firsthand experience not only dealing with stress, but also trying to manage stress, especially in a classroom setting. Not only do I have this experience, but I have also done lots of research and studies not only on the body, but also stress and how those two things kind of go hand in hand. So first, I will be talking about what is stress and why does it oftentimes feel so overwhelming. I will then move into how stress affects the immune system as well as the digestive system. And finally, I will move into how stress affects the nervous system and things we can do to try and manage our stress. So first, the Cleveland Clinic describes stress as the physical and mental responses to changes or challenging situations. So though the Cleveland Clinic says that these responses can be positive, most oftentimes in many people they are more negative. Some of these physical negative responses can include things such as aches, pains, dizziness, high blood pressure, and even exhaustion. It's also important to note that stress is very subjective, meaning that only the person that is experiencing the stress can understand truly how severe it is, as there is no diagnosis for stress. Also, it's important to know that there is no one trigger for any person. Stress can be caused by many different scenarios and is especially common in college students. Dr. Jennifer Casarella says that triggers for college students especially include heavy workloads, working long hours, and moving to a new home. As college students, we often are tasked with balancing things such as going to class, having homework for that class, then having to balance social lives and maybe even sports. So because of this, there's many things on our plate at once which can seem extremely overwhelming and stressful for that workload. Also, I know especially for many of us in this class, we travel from far places and we're at a new place that we've never been before. Or maybe we are back from being there in the past. So we're trying to meet new people, find a new routine that we're not used to, and that can be extremely stressful and overwhelming as well. So now that we understand kind of what stress is and what it can be triggered by, why does it often feel so times overwhelming? Stress is a very natural reaction by the body that is experienced by everyone. So it can feel like it's consuming your entire thought process. Not only that, but because we have physical reactions, they can often seem uncontrollable and not able to end. So combining these two ideas, because we have physical and mental reactions, trying to grasp the symptoms from time to time can be extremely challenging and then can therefore make it seem like these symptoms will never end, which can then also feel extremely overwhelming. So now that we kind of have a better idea of what stress is and what it is and why it's overwhelming, let's move into what stress does to the immune and digestive systems. So first, the BYU Psychological Services explains the negative effect that stress can have on the digestive system. They first say that increased stress can lead to increased amounts of stomach acid, which can then further lead to heartburn and acid reflux. Not only that, but increased stress can impact the digestive system and cause things such as indigestion and constipation, which can then further lead to worse issues that would have to be treated by medical specialists. Third, because of high blood pressure that can be caused by stress, longer amounts of this can lead to an inflammation of the bowel. And in turn, this often leads to stomach discomfort as well as nausea. Now, it's important to know that in stressful situations, the digestive system is frequently suppressed, but prolonged suppression can inhibit the ability for your digestive system to recover and then return to functioning properly. So prolonged stress can ultimately impact how your digestive system works in the long run. Also, the University of Maryland then goes in to describe how stress can affect the immune system. They say that prolonged exposure to stress can lead to higher inflammatory responses. This means that it's easier for your body to contract diseases, such as having more plaque on your arterial walls. This leads to a decrease in heart function, which is obviously not desirable because your heart is a very key function in your body, and lack of that being able to work properly is not good for your body at all. Also, stress and high amounts of stress have shown that there are higher amounts of something called hormone cortisol. And this is important because it can cause infections from having a hindered anti-inflammatory response system. So having more cortisol in your system is not good from this stress. Lastly, the American Psych Association says that stress can reduce the number of lymphocytes within your body. And this is extremely negative because lymphocytes are responsible for killing off bacteria and fighting infections. So from all of these things, it is clear that too much stress is extremely damaging to your immune system, and it's extremely easy for our body to contact diseases without necessarily having the means to fight off these diseases that are contracted. Now that we know what happens to the immune and digestive system, we can move on to what happens to the nervous system. So first, it's important to know what exactly the nervous system is. It refers to your brain, spinal cord, and one division of the nervous system is the autonomic nervous system. So this system in specific is responsible for physical responses according to the American Psychological Association, also known as your fight or flight, which is what you would probably be commonly referred to as. When you experience high amounts of stress, you have an increase of adrenaline, which is increased heart rate, breathing, and high blood pressure. Because this process is extremely fast and sudden, your body can usually regulate itself once the stressful situation is over, but prolonged amounts of stress means that your body cannot regulate, and they are still heightened because there is still stress going on. And even though your nervous system is not necessarily directly affected by stress, the nervous system is responsible for all the responses to stressful situations. So if your nervous system is constantly being subjected to stress and stressful situations, all of these responses will continuously happen. Therefore, things such as high heart rate, high blood pressure, and things like that will be a constant, which can then lead to further health issues. So how can we manage this stress to ensure that none of this happens? Well, first, do things that you enjoy and avoid things that can maybe be your trigger. So whether it's going and hanging out with friends or maybe crawling into your bed and watching a nice movie, do something that you enjoy. Also, make sure you rest and get plenty of sleep. This is extremely important because sleep allows your body to take a deep breath and refocus and kind of forget everything that's been happening and just allow yourself to calm down. And thirdly, exercise. Though it might seem tedious to some people, exercise is extremely important, and it can release something like your good feeling hormones. So exercising can help relieve some of the stress you're feeling. So to review, we went over what stress is and why it can oftentimes feel so overwhelming. We then talked about how this stress can affect the digestive and immune systems, and then moved into how it affects the nervous systems as well as how we can manage our stress. So again, college students are very subjected to stress and can often feel it in high amounts, so it's important to know what this stress is doing to our bodies. And to finish off, stress is definitely unavoidable. Whether you've already experienced it or haven't experienced it yet, you will definitely experience it at some point in your life. Because of this, it's important to understand the effects of stress, what it does to our body, and understand how we can manage this stress so that we don't subject ourselves to things that are extremely harmful. And remember, stress is a natural reaction that happens to everyone, but don't get overconsumed in your stress when you're studying for a big test. Thank you.